with. They're also chanting death to Israel as well. So what does this mean for our strongest ally in the region? Joining us now to talk about it more is Deputy Knesset Speaker Danny Danon, who is the author of the recently released book, Israel, The Will to Prevail. Welcome. Great to have you here today.
Great to be with you, Uma.
We've been seeing that many of those protesting are calling for the destruction of Israel as well. How concerned are you that we haven't heard much from people like Egypt's President Morsi condemning the violence against the U.S.?
We are very concerned because what we're seeing here is attack not against the United States of America and not against Israel. They keep inciting and they do not fight the radical forces. It's not all Egyptians or all Libyans, but the radical forces are taking over, and we see weak governments allowing them to attack your embassies, our embassy, and we are very worried about that.
Isn't it true that Israel has been warning the U.S. Arab Spring protests did not necessarily mean a positive outcome for the region over 18 months ago, that there were extremists who were the leaders of that movement?
Absolutely, Uma. In my book, I write it very directly that when President Obama came to the Middle East, he went to Cairo University. He delivered a nice speech, appeasement speech, but the Arab radicals saw it as a sign of weakness. And today they think that the U.S. is weak. They think that Israel is weak. They are wrong, by the way, but that's the way they see it, and that's why they're allowing themselves to attack us. You cannot show weakness in this neighborhood, and when somebody is attacking you, you have to fight back, and that is why Prime Minister Netanyahu wants to send a clear message to President Obama. You cannot ignore Iran, because Iran is behind a lot of what we are seeing today. There is a direct linkage, and if Iran will become nuclear, it will be a threat to the American people as well.
The White House continues to say that the protesters are upset about that anti-Muslim video on the internet, and that it has nothing to do with U.S. policy or its actions in the Middle East. Do you agree with that?
This was a stupid movie that was done by stupid people, but it is not an excuse to attack embassies, to kill or to massacre your ambassador in Libya. This is not accepted. Tomorrow morning, if there will be another video on YouTube, it will be another excuse. We do not accept it, and we know that those radical forces, when you hear them in the masks preaching against Israel, against the U.S., somebody is listening to them. Even today in Iran, children who go to schools, they have to march on the Israeli flag and the American flag. This incitement brings the attack that we're seeing today.
Does it bother you that the White House so far is not referring to the extremists involved in these attacks as terrorists?
I think we have to call it the way it is. It is a war. It is a war. It's a terror war against our values, against our principles, and with all due respect, more appeasement will not bring stability. I would expect the administration to send a very clear message to those countries. If you will continue to support those organizations, we will not help you. We will not give you billions of dollars. This should be the basic line coming today from Washington, and we do not hear it. The enemies of the U.S. were afraid of the U.S., and its allies could rely on it. Today we see the opposite. We see the enemies are not afraid, and the only strongest ally, Israel, we are not sure we can rely on the U.S. when we're dealing with those forces.
You say you're sure you can rely on the U.S. going forward. On the heels of that, much has been made of the president not making time in his schedule to meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu when the UN convenes in New York. What's been the reaction in Israel there?
Well, in Israel today we support our Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I believe there will be a meeting eventually, but with all due respect, going to the David Letterman show, it is not more important than meeting Prime Minister Netanyahu. We need to discuss with him the crucial situation we are. We have some discussion about the timeline when Iran will become nuclear. We know it's coming. We cannot ignore it, especially now, Uma, when you see those pictures, you ask yourself, if those terrorists will have the nuclear capability, I don't know if they will choose to attack Israel first or the U.S. We saw in 9/11 that showed the towers of New York City and not the towers of Tel Aviv that you see behind me.